Good morning, colleagues. It's Friday morning. It's the 12th of June, and this is your video bulletin bringing you news and updates of relevance to Children's Services Departments, brought to you by West Midlands Children's Services, hashtag Team West Midlands. It's a bit lighter today as opposed to all of the stuff from yesterday. Guidance update, big push and news items in relation to test and trace or track and trace. How it works, that's been updated. Any text that comes from the test and trace service now will come from NHS tracing and not from the NHS in terms of the line. So that might be something that catches out scammers. Right, two lines further on to that. First of all, local authorities receive funding to support new test and trace service. That is a press release on line 4, and the local authority test and trace support grant line 5 is some actual guidance. The narrative in many ways is in the press release, and this is talking about £300 million which is going to local government for local control plans, identifying and containing potential outbreaks in places such as schools or workplaces, and therefore the actions that can be done locally to counteract that. So obviously we want to aware what those plans or potentials are, line 4. The actual guidance itself talks about the determination of the funding, the allocation funding and the conditions that go with that. It is ring fence, so it can't be used for anything else, and that's on line 5. Collection guidance for local government, normally updated on a weekly basis, but today they're right on the ball and they've updated it with the press release about £63 million for local authorities to assist with food and other essentials. Now, obviously, there's concern about the lack of free school meals over the summer, and it was hinted that something else might be done instead, and this might be it. In which case, this money is going direct to councils to spend on food and other essentials and those who are struggling. But it's about supporting existing methodology, so you might want to consider whether children's services and schools and vulnerable children might need to be able to access that funding as well, and how that's the best way of going to do it. So there might be some internal discussions to be had there. Interestingly, this story actually comes from two sources. It's the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, and also from the Department of Environment, which also includes the Food Ministry and Rural Affairs, but rather than DFE. Renamed Testing for COVID-19, the 7th update in 14 days to this particular piece of guidance. Not necessarily relevant today, the guidance update is that it's concerning non-Randox testing in Scotland. So if you are interested, you can find that via the spreadsheet. Closure of educational settings, information for parents and carers, and the update there focuses on face coverings and wearing them on schools transport. He points out that schools transport is normally going to be in the same bubble of individuals as opposed to potentially changing with local public transport. So it's around whether it is appropriate. It also says from the 3 shouldn't wear them, and various other sources. If you want to make yourself aware of that, interested in transportation to and from schools and social distancing, line 9 on your spreadsheet for the latest update. Guidance for households with possible coronavirus infection. This has been updated in terms of title because it was originally the stay-at-home guidance. I'm not quite sure why they changed that. It's on line 10 of your spreadsheet, and they've updated guidance for households with grandparents, parents and children living together where someone is at increased risk or has symptoms of COVID-19, and that's so it aligns again with the test and trace, which we've dealt with earlier today, line 10 on your spreadsheet. And finally, COVID-19 roadmap task forces. This is around various task and finish groups, effectively minister-led, around bringing certain closed buildings and businesses back into action, and it relates to the heat monitor, the grading system. Interesting, it's line 13 on your spreadsheet. It does detail that on the 15th of May that there was a separate line increase for around youth centres. But if you can find that, you win the prize in today's competition, because I can't find any reference to it whatsoever. Strategic Performance Network had a meeting last week. We did promise you that we'd bring you an update. 3 main things that are coming out of that meeting there. There is a growing demand for data, even though certain governmental data and responses have been scaled back. But other agencies have stepped up their requests, so including the Preventing Violence Unit, the Combined Authority, the Office of Police Commissioners and Public Health England. So the volume of the work has gone up considerably, and also considerably shorter turnarounds are being requested. There's also it's been identified there's a need for regional moderation and interpretation and analysis of the data that's being produced, so it's actually worthwhile and used effectively. And what's the demand for that, and what is the evidence behind either the requests or the information that is produced. Also, the network is going to work on best practice guidelines on things such as working from home, work-life balance, and realistic expectations, obviously with a focus on their own type of individuals who are working with the data. Data statistics NMI for you today. And the screen has frozen again. So here we go, it's caught up. Number of coronavirus COVID case risk in the UK, daily updates there, that's on line 14. And number of outbreaks in care homes, management information, that is updated weekly. And if you're interested in that, that's on line 14. And we will close as normal with our closing statements regarding the DFE helpline, 08000 46 86 87, 08000 46 86 87. Our website is www.wmchildrenservices.org.uk, and our email address is info@wmchildrenservices.org.uk, and at WMADCS is our Twitter handle. Next week we'll be bringing you more of the same, but that is next week. There is a DCS meeting this morning, and I hope that goes well for everyone there, and we'll be supporting that from the regional offices as well. And again, that's going to be virtual. Have a super weekend. Stay safe, stay alert, stay home if you can, look after yourselves and each other. Take care. All the best. Bye-bye.